Hi Stampers, this is Kim with Great Inspirations and welcome to another Stamp Happy Holidays video. Today we're going to take some pattern paper and some cardstock and make a very classic treat holder. Now what am I talking about? I am talking about a matchbook treat holder. Here's what I made perhaps to pass out to a little trick-or-treater. And it opens just like a matchbook. Do y'all remember matchbooks? I'm not even sure they're still around anymore. But open it up, and there's a little treat inside, and then you just put this larger flap under the smaller one to close it. The great thing about these treat holders is you can use your scraps. And this is a scrap of paper, pattern paper I had that I found in my scrap bin. And for this and a couple other examples I'll show you, I did use some strips of cardstock I had in my cardstock scrap bin. However, I didn't have any of the red. And this is Poppy Parade from Stampin' Up! And I will have to cut that down. It is a half a sheet of cardstock, so it's 5.5 by 8.5, but we will cut that down. So the first thing we're going to do is, let's cut our cardstock. And we are going to want this cardstock to be 3 inches wide. And we want it to be 7 3/4 inches long. So there we go. And we'll save these for other projects. And now we're ready to do some scoring on the cardstock. And the first score line we're going to make is at 3/4 inch, and that's way down here. Then we're going to slide down to 4 1/4. And then go just 1/4 of an inch over to 4 1/2. And there is the scoring for our cardstock. Now let's cut and score our pattern paper. And we're going to need this to be 2 3/4 inches wide and 3.5 inches long. So we want the wide part to be this way. This is because this is a directional paper. If we cut it this way, Santa would be all messed up. So 2 3/4 wide. And we need it to be 3 1/2 inches tall or long, however you care to look at that. More scraps for my scrap bin. And there we have it. Our 2 3/4 by 3 1/2. And we want to make sure that it's going facing the correct way. And it is. So now we're going to take this and we're going to cut it one more time. We're going to cut it at 3 inches. So we'll put it in here to 3 and cut. Now this gives us a piece that will go here and that will go on this little flap after we fold our matchbook base here. So we can put this away and we can do some folding. And I'm just going to get out this mat here. It's just easier for me to use a bone folder on it than this. So we're going to just fold each of these score lines, and they're all mountain folds. So now we're going to have something that looks like this. And I am going to grab a bone folder, and we'll go over those score lines a bit. And there we go. And now we have, you can see how this will go right here and have a nice little border around it. And this will go in here with a border around it. And then, of course, we're going to have some candy to put in here. Now, the candies that fit the best, in my mind, are the small individual size bags of M&Ms, the plain M&Ms that you get to hand out for trick-or-treat. But my store didn't have those. So I had to get the peanut ones. And these fit pretty well, but this is peanut butter, not the peanut. But some of them are a little, well, they're not all the exact uniform shape. Like the regular M&Ms, they're all one shape and one width. These tend to be a little irregular. Same with the peanut ones and some of the others. But this will work. And as you saw, I had this little Hershey bar in here. This works. It's a little thick, but I am going to show you a way to adjust the measurements for this to kind of compensate for that. I did not do that on this one. And that's why if you look real close, there's a little buckling right there, which most kids don't care about, to be honest. But we're going to staple this into place. And I found that this bag is also a little bit longer than the regular M&Ms. Skittles is another good one. And I saw the other day when I was at the store, they have the little gummy bears, and they're fairly thin, and they have the small packs of those, and I thought those would be good. Also, any kind of Ghirardelli chocolate will fit in there as long as it's, you know, the squares. And other fairly flat candies. And just remember your space here is, you know, about 3 inches. Now I'm going to staple all this into place. But in a little bit, I'm going to show you an alternative to stapling. Because I used to work with young children, and it panics me every time I'd see them with something with a staple in it. But, you know, that's me. They all survived it, but I would just panic. So I have some of the border of this candy bag tucked under my flap. Try to center it better. There we go. And then I'm going to just staple this. And you don't want to staple it right in the center. You want to get it, well, center from left to right, but from top to bottom, leave a little more space at the top so it won't impede the tucking of your flap. You don't have to leave much more, just a little more. And there we go. And now we're going to put some adhesive on the back of our small strip here. If I have adhesive, I thought I got it out yesterday and laid it here. Oh well, I'll be right back. Here we go. I wasn't as prepared as I thought I was. And we're just going to center this left to right, top to bottom. There we go. And another thing I like to do, I like to put a glue dot or two on the back of this. I think it just helps kind of hold it in place and keep the thing closed. Like I say, 1 or 2, just a little something, and it still will peel off just fine when the recipient wants to take the bag out. But just a little something to hold it in place. You just kind of push. And there's that. And now we'll put on our piece of pattern paper on the front. Just a little adhesive. And then center top to bottom, side to side, as always. And we just tuck it right in there. And I have a small greeting to put on here. Santa's coming to town. And I have put that on dimensionals. And as you can see on the back here, I used the same die, this banner die, cut it out, the white cardstock with our sentiment on it, and then I cut one out in the red. Then I simply cut it in half and adhered it to the back of the banner to just give it a little bit of a red border at the top and the bottom. Untuck this, center it, or I think I'm going to put it a little more towards the top. And there we go. Now, I think these are great, of course, to hand out to the kids at trick or treat. They're easy to make, they're quick. Like I said, you can use scraps. It doesn't take any time at all to make several. Now, if you have hundreds of trick-or-treaters come to your house, you may not want to make these for the trick-or-treaters, or maybe just for some of the neighborhood kids you know, just to drop in their trick-or-treat bucket. I think these are nice to hand out at work. I think they would be nice to drop in a stocking at Christmas time. This is another thing I think can be really nice to put out as a table favor, you know, at not Halloween, at Thanksgiving, like I did for this one right here. And this one inside has a Ghirardelli square. And this one, there's no staple. And I will show you how I made that one. Here's the one we just made. It has the staple, and this Halloween one has a staple. Let's see, I think I have another sample right here. This one does have the staple. It's another Halloween one. And I've just put some ribbon around it. I didn't even put a greeting. So if you have a whole lot of ribbon, this is a good way to use that ribbon. And inside, I put another one of the candy bars. And as you can see, it's buckled. And like I said, we're going to talk about that as well, how to avoid that. But if you look at these, let me show you the one I made for New Year's. I've used some ribbon on it and some little snowflake embellishments because I have about 1 billion of them. But if you just look at these, you'll see I don't have a whole lot of embellishments on them. And that's because these will more than likely end up in the trash. You want something cute to present, like I said, to coworkers, put in a stocking, put in the trick-or-treat bucket, set at the table, whatever. But you know, these are not keepsakes for the most part. Some people may keep them, but in general, this is just something to wrap up your treat. So let's talk about how to do it without staples. And you may have guessed we're going to be using glue dots. Now here I have my Ghirardelli square, which is kind of ironic because, no, it's not. This is for the one with the, I was thinking about the wider the thicker candy. This is the one we're not going to use the staple. So I do have a greeting. And then I have my base that I've cut and scored. And I have the pattern paper that I've cut. But instead of using this piece, I'm going to do something brave. I'm going to use this ribbon down here just because I thought it would be pretty. And I probably should have tried this before I was on camera, but we'll see what happens. So I'm going to just put all this over here for now. We have there's the greeting. Going to use some glue dots. And the first thing I'm going to do with the glue dots is put one here and here to get that ribbon on there. Ooh, that's not the end I want. Let's try this in. Right there. Put the ribbon. Bring it right along here. Ooh, I think it's going to work. All right. But now we're going to open this up and put some glue dots right along that score line. Doesn't have to, it can be a little bit below it. Oops, it wants to stick to the ribbon now. There we go. I think I might put 2 more. So we do want it to hold really well. And for this one, just going to fold that up. And then I'm going to take my candy, pop it in there. I'm going to put a couple of glue dots right here. Now you could probably use another kind of adhesive. You could probably use tear and tape, anything like that. I don't think I would use liquid glue, but because this is just so slick. Oh wait, I wanted to put a couple on the back. So there's that. Now we're just going to carefully tuck that right there, press on your candy. Now we'll put our pattern paper on there. Center it. Let's put our give thanks. We didn't use this because we used the ribbon. We'll tuck that right under there. And there we go. And there's no staples. So there's some for Thanksgiving. And now we'll talk about, that solved the staple problem. Now let's talk about the problem when your candy is a little thicker than this 1/4 inch. So we're going to take a piece of cardstock, and again, it's going to be 3 inches wide, but instead of 7 3/4 inches, 3 inches wide and 7 3/4 inches long, this is 8 inches long. And we're going to do that scoring. I need to move my candies a bit. There we go. Because we're going to score. No, I don't need that. I was thinking about cutting the length of the cardstock. We are going to score, and we're going to start, as always, at the 3/4. 3/4 of an inch. And then we're going to move to 4 1/4, just like we did before. But this time, instead of going to 4 1/2, we're going to go to 4 3/4. And then when we fold it, it makes it wider at the top. So the only thing that changed was one of the score lines. And then, and of course, I don't have any more candy, but if I had the thicker, like the candy bars or those peanut butter M&Ms, it fits. All the other measurements for the paper and everything else is exactly the same. We just added 1/4 of an inch to the length of the base and added that up here. So it didn't affect anything else, only the top, but it made it wide enough that you can put a wider piece of candy in there. So there you have the solution to that problem, so that it won't, although this one really didn't buckle, but these two did with the candy bars. So there's the Halloween ones. Here's the ones for Thanksgiving without the staple. There's a Christmas one, and here's the one I made for New Year's. Like I said, here's how we can solve the problem for the wider pieces of candy. So over on my corresponding blog post, you'll find the measurements for these. You'll find the alternative measurement and score line for the wider one. And you'll also find information about the glue dots and the staple. And the link for that corresponding blog post can be found in the description of this video. I really just thank you so much today for joining me for this edition of Stamp Happy Holidays. And until next time, stamp happy.